So obviously, Joe, today with the news that Saban is retiring, they have a head coaching vacancy. A lot of names that are already flying out there. You got guys like Lane Kiffin, Dabo Swinney that are on that list. Dan Lanning, who, by the way, has a $20 million buyout. That sounds ridiculous. Who are some guys that you think that can or should or will go into Alabama and replace Nick Saban? Where do you think that they go?
Okay, I have to just throw the two insane ones on the table just for fun. You know, we do this show, obviously.
Don't say something stupid.
I'm going to say something stupid. These are not going to happen, but these are obviously the fun ones that would be exciting. No, I was going to say Bill Belichick or Mike Vrabel are two very fun names to just throw into the conversation. I don't think that there is a shot in hell that either of them happen, but it's always a plausible case. Belichick more than Vrabel because of the relationship that the two of them have. But we're going to move past that. I don't think that it's happening.
All right, nice troll job. It failed. Who are your realistic?
That's not a troll job. Those are just me having fun. I want to put those on the table. The three.
So it's a troll. Who are your actual realistic people that you think that they're going after?
I think that the three that make the most sense. I don't believe Dan Lanning is going to happen because of the buyout that you just talked about and because of his commitment to the program. Lane Kiffin is the most obvious, but at the same time, Lane jokes around a lot. He's going to tease a little bit and then just potentially just end up staying at Ole Miss. Steve Sarkisian feels like the most likely of those two, that he's not really tied to Texas, and Alabama was a career resurgence for him. Alabama marks a really important part of his career. But I think that the most obvious here, Blake, is the one that we talked about pre-show, and I came around to it when you said it to me. I think that Dabo Sweeney is going to be the guy, and you gave a lot of good answers, and I'll let you break those down. But I look at what happened with Dabo this offseason, and I said a show ago, and I criticized Dabo Sweeney for not doing a lot this offseason. We talked about how he needed to go in the portal, and he didn't go in the portal. We talked about how he needs to recruit better. His recruiting class was okay. It's not up to par with what we know. Is there a chance that Dabo knew that this was coming? Is there a chance that Sabin picked up the phone and said, hey, I'm leaning towards this. Just, keep your phone ready?
Okay, so let me tell you what I heard, and it goes back to a conversation, and I'm glad that I have a conversation with you about it, because it's not just me saying, hey, guys, I said this a couple days ago, and nobody really believes it. Remember the joke that I had in reference to the people that are really famous in the Illuminati, and, you having the mark of the beast, they call it.
My God.
The left eye. So here's what I know. About 3 days ago, when the Dabo thing came up and it was a joke, they were like, well, Dabo sold his soul so he could go back to Alabama. I had a really good buddy of mine who I've had on my show a couple of times who works for an agency firm, works for a law firm, okay? He works for the largest college football agent in the country. Think you could put two and two together. I sent him that. I sent him hey, look, Dabo is with the Illuminati now. And so because he wants to go back to Alabama. He texts me back, well, about that, ... Wow. So I made the joke on the show about it. What I would say about Dabo is that Bama fans seem to not either they, don't want him or they do want him because he's an Alabama guy. He's a graduate from there. He's obviously won a couple of national titles against Nick Saban won one against Nick Saban, but played for multiple national titles and won them. Here's what I'd say. He does make a lot of sense. I don't think the buyout's crazy. $7.5 million buyout for a head coach is not ridiculous. Okay, he is your guy. Dabo has made it known in recruiting circles that he does not have the money like he would have at Alabama, at Clemson, to go into the portal and pay players to come here. The truth is that players are getting more money when they hit the portal than high school kids. I know it makes a lot of sense. I don't know if because look, Joe, he's been in Clemson longer than he was at Alabama ever. So Clemson is more home to him than anything. I'm not going to keep Dabo off the table because I do think it's an easy option. Would he want to come back there? Would he want to come into the SEC? Who knows if he would. I do think, though, there are some other options to keep open here. I'm going to give you 3.
Okay.
I do think Kalen DeBoer at Washington makes some sense. You know, they did try to hire Ryan Grubb last year as their next offensive coordinator, and he's got a $12 million buyout. Here are the 2 for me that make the most sense. One of them you will not like, but Marcus Freeman does make a little sense.
I did see somebody share that.
Pete Thamel is reporting that he has a $4 million buyout and could be in play here. So him along with Mike Norvell, who do share the same buyout of $4 million, if you do want to go that route. Now, there's going to be no expense that Alabama will not pay to go get somebody, which does, for me, symbolize that if they wanted to go get Dan Lanning, they could go get it. Okay, if he wanted to come here, I'm going to throw a curveball at you, though, that I think could make some sense. You talked about it with Alabama's DC hire, and I shot you down. Glenn Schumann's also an Alabama guy.
Oh, that's I mean,
so when
wait.
When I shot you down yesterday and said that he would not leave to be the DC, but he would leave to be the head coach, you didn't bat an eye because you rolled it off. You just rolled it off. And I said, okay, well, I guess Joe didn't want to go down that path. But nevertheless,
I don't remember you saying that.
Joe, go watch the entire show. There's not anybody out there right now that you can hire, in my opinion, that would be on the pedestal of what you did when you hired Nick Saban.
I agree with that. I didn't even think of Urban Meyer, admittedly, which is, he's the easy go-to whenever any of these openings happen. But yeah, I think that Urban Meyer is going to come into the conversation. I'm sure that his agent is probably trying to see if he can get him into the mix for this job, because it's the job of all jobs. And as you're talking about, yeah, he's the only guy that we know that has stepped into 2 different programs, has immediately risen the standard, and then in a short period of time brought them back to national championship prominence. And you already have a national championship winning culture. The current roster is going to be motivated to stay. The current roster is going to be like, why would we leave when we're getting a guy who is a winning coach and then we don't need to worry about it? I think that Urban Meyer makes a ton of sense. I still keep coming back to, though, I really believe that this is going to end up being Dabo. I think there's so many underlying factors, like I was talking about, where it felt like he was so inactive this offseason and he was pretty quiet, except for him getting punched in the face with the blemish of the basketball game. And he fits. Played for Alabama. He's got so many ties to the organization and the program. He's got to be the guy. He's got to be.
Cody McGee with a $4.99 super chat says, do you think Nick Saban will have say-so on the next who the next head coach will be at Alabama? Yeah, I do. So, Joe, I do think that Nick will have his hands involved in who will be the next head coach. How much he will have involved in it, I don't know. I do think that he'll have some persuasion of some guys that are on his coaching tree to take it over. I 100% do.
Yeah, I don't know why that's a lock that he's going to have some sort of a say in this. And I really wouldn't be surprised if Sabin doesn't stay around the program and they don't keep him as some sort of honorary part of the football program for how long he's been there and how impactful he's been, that they don't keep him in the
I don't know if they do that.
Why don't you think that? Because
if you're a head coach going into that situation, why would you want Saban always over your right shoulder?
Well, I don't know I don't think it would be like that.
Let me tell you this, okay? I've seen this from GOATs before. Bah. I'll give an example. I'll use one that's closer to home to me. Skip Berkman is the Nick Saban of college baseball. He just is. He's got, I mean, the amount of national titles, I think he had, what, guys, correct me, 6 in 10 years. It was ridiculous how many national titles that he had at LSU in college baseball. Actually, was the one who would not pay Saban to come back here when he wanted to come back to college. There's a whole story behind that. There were times and rifts between coaches because they did feel like that Skip Bertman was always over their shoulder. And I do think that there's something to be said when a coach that's had that much success at the program, you don't want him second guessing or undermining anything that you're doing. If that were to happen, there's only one person that would allow that to happen who I do think would let the ego go for that. You know who that is?
Dabo.
Lane Kiffin.
Oh, Lane Kiffin, yeah.
Dabo would not want Saban anywhere near it. Yeah. Lane is the only person.
Well, so I would say Sark too. I would say Sark.
I don't think Sark would. I really don't think Sark would. Did you see the tiff that Sark got into it with the ESPN guy who told him he couldn't run out the tunnel? I mean, Sark is just, I mean, Lane would be the only person that would do that. And let me give you an opinion. Okay, here's my opinion if I'm Alabama. If I'm an AD, okay? If I'm an athletic director of any school in the country, the first call that I make, regardless of what school I'm at, is to Lane Kiffin. Like, there's not a question for me, because look what happened when Lane got money. What happened when Lane got money? And you know that he is going to recruit at a high level. Don't overthink this. I know that he recruited his ass off at Ole Miss. I know that he's got a squad at Ole Miss. Would he leave that to go to Alabama? I don't know. Here's what I do know, though. There's not one coach that is a realistic option that, I mean, you got to go get him. Joe, name another coach that you would go and get not named Lane Kiffin, because once he got money, look what he's doing in recruiting.
I mean, that's a good point, too. He's also one of the younger names that we've brought up here that you bring him in and he's there for possibly like 20 years, something crazy like that.
2 decades if he's not crazy.
I mean, we also got to remember here, he bailed on Tennessee and jumped for USC the way that he did in one of the most outrageous, ridiculous departures from a program in terms of timing, in terms of procedure, the way that he handled it. I don't think he would hesitate. I don't think Lane gives a shit. I really don't think that Lane would feel bad leaving what he just put together behind. I really don't. I'm not trying to criticize his character. My point is he has done this before. And if there was a coach that has built something, him way more than Dan Lanning, that has put all the work in the offseason, that would say, all right, never mind, I'm going to go to Alabama. I'm just going to, after all the time I just spent up, okay, sorry guys, I'm going to Alabama, pack my stuff up. I'll see you guys when we play you.
Well, and if you're Ole Miss, you got a dude right there in Pete Golding who has been the mastermind behind what you've done in the transfer portal. It just, there's not another dude I would call.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.